Now let's see if I can let people in.
Very good. And would you be able to share this link with us just in case if we need to show, in our team, hey, we have presented this information to our community partners? That would be really helpful. Share the
Okay.
recording later on.
Yeah, there will be a recording posted on our website.
Oh, awesome. We're going to be on our best behavior.
All right. Well, good afternoon. Sorry we're a couple of minutes late getting started here. Hopefully we've got our technical issues worked out now. And so I want to say welcome to this session of the Community Table. And our topic today is educational rights of students who are experiencing homelessness under the McKinney-Vento Act. And we've got two very knowledgeable people here today, Giselle Danger and Julie McCullough, who are from JCPS, and they're going to share their wealth of wisdom with us. So I'm just going to turn it over to them. If you have comments or questions, do you have a preference on how people do that? Do you want them to put in the Q&A, raise their hand, or what?
It will be great if they put it in the chat, and we will try to keep a look on the app. I want to mention that I also have Anissa Lanier. She is right here with us. We're sharing the computer because we'll make like a weird echo sometimes. She is our liaison for foster care for the district. But before I go on, I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself, let my team introduce themselves, and then we're going to start. And hopefully the goal is that this information is not going to be one of your, revision of the law. I want to make sure to end up with implementable, strategies that we can use to support our students. We know that our community has a hidden population of students that are homeless, many of them. You're going to see them through your doors, but many are in our street and they don't know that they're eligible for our services. So I am very excited to be able to share the knowledge that we have accumulated through the years, but also receive information from you on how we can collaborate even better. So my name is Giselle Danger. I am the specialist for access and opportunity with Jefferson County Public Schools. My team works with promoting stability and continuity in the education for homeless, foster care student, and immigrant refugee, with a main focus on refugee arrivals. So when we talk about the services that we provide, we focus a lot on implementation of federal law. So a lot of the information that I'm going to be providing is going to be useful, not just for us in Jefferson County, but if you move anywhere in the United States, I feel that this information will be very useful. So again, Giselle there. I'm going to put my email in the chat in a second. My goal is for this to be a conversation. So feel free to, share your question through the chat, and I'm going to try my best between me and people in our team. We're going to be able to address your questions. I'm going to introduce, if you want to introduce yourself.
I'm Julie McCullough. I am one of the social workers that works under Giselle. Work primarily on supporting our McKinney-Vento students and families, and help out sometimes a little bit with foster care.
And my name is Anissa Lanier, and I am also on this very small, extraordinary team. I'm a social worker. I've been with JCPS for about 20 years, and my primary goal is with foster care, but I also support all of our highly mobile students.
Thank you. And the main reason why I want to make sure that Anissa was part of this, sometimes people ask us the question. So foster care students are part of the McKinney-Vento. We're going to get to that during our presentation. But what we see is a revolving door, unfortunately, between the homeless experience for some of our families and ending up in foster care. So many times our team, what we do is to work together to make sure that we're providing a safety net for the families. That way, if they ever come in contact with, Child Protective Services, they know that we're here to support but also when our families leave or are able to recover the custody of their kids, if they are in custody of DCBS, many times that put a pressure in the family and they end up facing homelessness. So it's good that we work together. That way we can provide like a seamless support at the school and district level. So we're gonna start with our presentation. Again, we're gonna keep a look in our chat. Feel free to put any question that you might have during the presentation. Oops. Loading.
There we go.
Yep, right here. So again, we already introduced ourselves. If you call JCPS, the main line, you can ask for the Access and Opportunity Department. Many of, especially older employees in JCPS, they will refer to our department as the Homeless Department. So you can say the Homeless Department, but we really go by Access and Opportunity because we do believe that the work that we all do in the city to support our homeless families or families experiencing homelessness are providing access and opportunity. And many of our families with that support are able to come out of homelessness. So we really do our best to make sure that we provide that at the school level. So for today, we're going to review the McKinney-Vento Federal Act. It is an act that provides the definition for homeless. According to this law, students that are homeless, you're going to see a difference between probably the definition that you use, because HUD used a different definition from our definition of homeless. Our definition is broader than probably the definition that you use in your agency. So I want to make sure that you understand that every single one of your clients will be eligible for our services, but many of the students that we identify in JCPS as homeless might not be eligible for your services. We're going to get in detail about eligibility process, timeline, when a student is identified as homeless, for how long they can receive services. So you're going to learn all about this federal law. We're also going to talk about, once we identify them as McKinney-Vento homeless, what are the services that families are entitled to by federal law, and what are additional support that we provide based on availability of resources. We're going to talk about what are the systems that are in place in JCPS to implement this law at the school level and at the district level. And we're going to be very honest, we're going to have a conversation about the challenges that we face and how we can collaborate. I would like to start by giving you some background about what our organization looks like. We all know that JCPS is a big district. It could be even intimidating calling and finding out what is the department that you need to call depending on your need. So I want to make sure that at least you understand where we are located. We are part of the Diversity, Equity, and Poverty Department that is led by Dr. Marshall. He is the Chief Equity Officer. And my unit is called Access and Opportunity. Some of our employees are they share responsibilities between direct support for homeless students, and some of them work with other populations. So we have a clerk. She is Laura McLean. She does some work with our homeless student, but her main focus, I will say, will be with the Diversity, Equity, and Poverty Department. We do have a data technician. He will be probably the first voice that you will hear if you contact our office. And this is a good opportunity to give you one time, at least our phone number, 502-485-3650. That is a phone number that most of our families call, schools will call. However, we identify about 4,000 homeless students, about 2,000 foster care students, so a total population that we serve about 6,000 for the district. We also support 169 schools, and we are the only department that deals directly with homeless and foster care for the district. So what I'm saying is your best way of communicating with us will be email. We're also going to share with you today a Google form that we have created to mainstream the communication, because we know email sometimes can be overwhelming. for us and for you if you're trying to get a response. So we are trying to make sure that we provide ways that to make the most out of the resources that we do have available. Anissa already introduced herself as the foster care liaison for the district. Her work directly has to deal with supporting students that are in foster care. So, like I say, it's a big revolving door, unfortunately, between families experiencing homelessness and entering or exiting the foster care system. So they have a special support and federal protections under ESSA, and some of the work that we do for homeless are very similar to the work and the support that we provide for foster care students, and having those two approach, supporting homeless and foster care has led to really supporting a student in a more consistent way. You already met Julie McCullough. She is our social worker. Probably you're going to be working with her if you have a specific need for a specific student that is homeless. A lot of the work that we do is district-wide support, because at the district level, we need to make sure that there is implementation at a school, at every single school. So every single school has a liaison that is a homeless liaison, and they should be implementing McKinney-Vento at the school level. At our level, we provide directives and support for schools. We create strategies to make sure that at the school level, they can implement McKinney-Vento and that we identify in a consistent way and provide resources. But Julie will probably be the person that you will be working with if you have a specific need for a student. That does not mean that you cannot contact me, of course. I just want to make sure that you kind of know how we are, how we divide the work. We used to have Melania Hernandez. She used to work directly with some of our homeless students that were coming from other countries because she has a solid background in immigration. However, that position is vacant right now, so hopefully we're gonna get a new person soon. We have a coordinator for parent relations. His name is Justin Willis. He is part of the team, but he supports a broader population, not just homeless and foster care students, but the district-wide. He focuses a lot on students that are economically disadvantaged, and he runs the closing assistance program for the district. Many of you have collaborated with us throughout the years, and many of you have requested in the past uniform support, back to school supplies. Justin Willis is our main point of contact and the person that coordinates uniform assistance for our students, not only at the beginning of the school year, but during the year. He is a great person to have contact with if you ever encounter a family that has a house fire or they have an emergency and they need clothing assistance, if they need shoes, etc. But we're going to, in that Google form that I was mentioning, I added the information and the resources that we can provide you with. So if you send a request and you need clothing assistance, probably it's going to go to Justin Willis, but we're going to mainstream the system to make it a little easier in our partnership. We also have Tyson Harvin. He's an associate diversity equity coordinator, and he mainly works with after school activities. And we also have a few liaisons that are located in schools, and they provide after school activities with a focus on homeless students and Title I or economically disadvantaged students. I know that this is a lot, but with such a big system, I wanted you to know 4,000 students, about 4,000 students this year that are homeless. We also have about 2,000 foster care students, but this, I mean, when you count, you can see the discrepancy between the scope of the work that we do and the amount of staff that are allocated, and that is why it's so important, and I'm so excited to add you to our resource team because our families need way more. So at the school level, of course, every school have a school principal. Principals have the authority and they have the responsibility to implement McKinney-Vento at the school, But each principal also had to select an administrator in their building that will serve as a school homeless liaison. By the end of the presentation, I'm gonna ask my team to release and to send to you a list of a school homeless liaison. That way, if you have a specific issue or a specific support that you need from school, you will have a point of contact in every school. This will be a great person if you need to send a student that is homeless that need to enroll in school. That way, rather than the student just going to the school and trying to explain that they are facing homelessness and that is why they don't have proof of address, it is always good if you send an email to this school homeless liaison and give them a heads up. This is a McKinney-Vento eligible student. Working with the student, they are planning of going to your school and apply for enrollment. We also have some schools that have co-liaisons. Many of them are from desk personnel, and that always helps. We have a school counselor that are trained on McKinney-Vento, and of course, every school now have mental health practitioners, and we all know the importance of providing mental health support for our homeless students. I wanted to give you that school level support directly for homeless students. That way you can see that at the district level, there are support, but also there are people at the school level that have not only the knowledge, but also they have the authority and the responsibility of providing support specifically for homeless students. So hopefully you will find that list useful. I feel that it's important that school become familiar with not only receiving referrals from us, but you also contacting them and letting them know, hey, I'm working with this family, and this is how you can support. We work with a lot of different departments. We will probably be your point of contact person for any district level support that you might need, but that does not mean that the work will end up with in our hands. The main department that we work with is transportation department. The transportation department set up transportation for the entire district, but they also have the responsibility of providing transportation based on federal law, which the federal law is very clear. Homeless student must receive, and foster care student must receive transportation to their school of origin. So that is something that is challenging many times. Our homeless students are highly mobile. Many times it's very difficult to find a school bus. I will say 90% of the time we are able to find a school bus or a van to provide transportation, but there are other times in which transportation becomes a challenge. And so I wanted to let you know these are some of the departments that we work directly with to implement this law. A student assignment is another department that we work with. The student assignment, it is the department that determines what school the student will go to. And we work together with them to make sure that homeless students have the ability to have options to apply for schools. But in addition to that they also are provided with access to the McKinney-Vento law, which says homeless student must have access to school stability. So no matter if they move 20 times during the school year, they always are able to stay in their school of origin. I'm going to tell you what is a school of origin in a second, and what are some of the misconceptions about what are the schools that our homeless students can attend.
We have one hand raised.
Okay.
Very
good. You want to read that question if you can?
It was just a hand raise. It wasn't. Can you put your question in the chat?
I will keep looking at the question while I go through the presentation.
Okay.
I'm going to be looking on the lookout for that question. We also work with student relations and early childhood department, student special education departments. So many times if you contact us, we're going to be collaborating with other departments. But please do know that we can definitely be the advocate for homeless students. We're that is our main responsibility. Oh, I think that I will have to close this to be able to move forward. There you go.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna bore you with the McKinney-Vento law, but just know that it's nothing new. It has been reviewed many times, but the McKinney-Vento law is a federal law that provides support for homeless students, and it has been in existence since the late 80s. So it should not come to a shock for anyone, definitely not for school district employees. So all the information that you're gonna receive is federally so our federal mandates. So no matter if you go to a school here or in any other location in United States, it should be implemented the same way. Again, the McKinney-Vento law defines what is homeless. That has been reviewed a couple of times, and today we're going to talk about the definition of homeless. I'm gonna provide really quick a number or a trend or a homeless count for our school district. As you can see, it fluctuates the number between 5, 3,000, 4,000. However, this number is a misconception because we know we have way more homeless students than what we're able to identify. We have many different reasons to believe that the count does not represent the situation or the scope of the need in our community. A lot of our families do not feel comfortable sharing their housing situation. Many feel like if we did share that they're homeless, we might have to call DCBS, but that's not the case. However, we understand that there are many negative stigma attached to the word homeless. So we're trying to promote identification so they can receive services and staying away from calling it homelessness, because we know that homeless families, many times they do not consider themselves homeless, especially under our McKinney-Vento law. Under our McKinney-Vento law, many things will qualify someone as homeless. As you can see in this chart, 70% or more of our homeless students are not living in shelter or in a hotel, motel, or out in the street. Many of them are residing in somebody else's house. So they are what we call double up. They might be living with a friend or relative. They might and that they're not homeless. However, under the federal law, McKinney-Vento, they qualify for services. And
Giselle, there's a question. How long does it take to get a bus for a student once they're identified as homeless?
We are going to get to that question in a second. And that question will come, actually, I will say, we're going to get to transportation in a second, and we're going to be able to address that question. Thank you for the question. We're not going to forget. Not going to talk a lot about homeless causes because you are the expert in homelessness in our city, and I know that you have seen it, but I want to make sure that at least you know, we know that some families become homeless due to things that are not what many people that are not in the homeless world will know. Like, for example, we have families that end up being homeless due to I will say domestic violence, or they might end up being homeless due to unsafe neighborhood. But we know that many of our families end up homeless because there is a lack of affordable housing. That is one of the main issues that we experience here too. So how is homelessness defined? And again, I'm not going to forget about that question. It's important, but we're going to get to that in a second. Someone that lacks a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence is considered homeless. And we know that this definition is too broad. So we wanted to make sure that we can give you specific things that will qualify somebody as homeless. If you have a family, if you come into contact with a family that is sharing housing with another person, and they do not own the house, or that are not part of the lease where they reside, and they are more like a guest in somebody else's house, even if they pay a portion of the rent, they are considered McKinney-Vento homeless. If a family live in a hotel, motel, they are also considered homeless. If they live in an emergency or a transitional housing shelter or a transitional housing program, they are considered McKinney-Vento homeless. Again, there is a difference between McKinney-Vento definition for schools and HUD definition. So I want to make sure that we don't confuse those two. This definition and this eligibility is for educational purposes only. Of course, if you have families that are living in places that are not supposed to be designed for humans to live, they are also considered homeless. We have families that live in cars for many different reasons, etc. Abandoned building. We have families that are considered homeless because they live in substandard housing. And of course, the word substandard is a little controversial because what is substandard to me might not be substandard for somebody else. So we typically use what the housing authority will consider substandard, but they're always situation that we have to see on a case-by-case situation. So if you come across a family and you're not sure, feel free to contact us. We have families that might have an adequate house, but they might not have utilities for an extended period of time, and that will make them McKinney-Vento homeless. So if you have a family, they have been in the same house, but they don't have access to electricity for a week or water for a week, something like that, that will make them McKinney-Vento homeless. We have families that live in houses that are that have issues with roaches and other unsafe conditions. Newly immigrant resettled refugees are considered homeless automatically for the first year because they had to move out of their country due to things that are out of their control. A refugee status made them McKinney-Vento the first year that they're here in this country. So you can go back and kind of review the substandard considerations that we have in the PowerPoint presentation, but as you can see, most of these considerations are related to unsafe situation. We also have families that had to leave their home due to criminal activity in the neighborhood that made it impossible for them to stay in their home. So I wanted to kind of call attention to that. Again, the double up considerations, if you have many times, because it's 70% of the families that we serve, I want to make sure that you are clear on what that means. Again, you're asking about the housing situation of the family. Are you living with a friend or relative? Why is that? Why are you living with this family? And typically it will result in them telling you some type of precipitating event that end up or resulted in them not having their own place. It might be domestic violence. It might be criminal activity in the neighborhood. It might be my landlord just is going to sell the house and now I don't have an affordable house to go to. Maybe we have families that have lived with friends or family members for years and they don't recognize that they don't have any legal authority to remain in the house, but they will be also considered McKinney-Vento homeless. We also have unaccompanied homeless youth, and those are students that are minors that they leave their house. It doesn't matter for our eligibility, the reason why they leave their house. Once they are no longer in their house, they are considered unaccompanied homeless youth. And the reason for that is so they can receive protection, so they can go and continue to be enrolled in school, because at that point definitely will be the safest place for that student.
There you go. Can you click it again?
Foster care students are not considered homeless. However, they receive similar protections. So that is a myth. Sometimes people will tell you if they're in foster care, they're McKinney-Vento eligible. That's not the case. We never contact Child Protective Services based on homelessness alone. We do have cases, very few cases, in which we do have to contact Child Protective Services, but that is never related to the experience of being homeless alone. It's more related to abuse or neglect while they are experiencing homelessness. So I want to make sure that we are sharing that knowledge with families. We have so many families that will say, I would have called you earlier, but I was concerned about you guys calling, Child Protective Services and how that can affect my household. Again, homelessness alone is not something that we will report. It's not a cause of abuse or neglect. So we are mandatory reported as anybody else, you know, any other citizen. However, homelessness is something that can happen to anyone. We are all, you know, experienced families that have ended up homeless for many different reasons. So we support our families, and we want to let them know it can happen to anyone, and we will never contact CP, you know, Child Protective Services because of homelessness. Homelessness has had impact on the education performance of a student, from emotional, developmental delays to, you know, issues with, you know, the academics. So that is why this federal law was put into place to provide some additional support that so they can be, homeless students can be successful academically and having a school stability. So once you identify somebody as homeless, they are immediately eligible for specific services and specific protections. The first one that I want to say is, and if you don't remember anything about this slide, remember, homeless student enroll now, ask later. And that is what we preach to every single school. If you have a student that is McKinney-Vento homeless, they might not call themselves McKinney-Vento or homeless, but if they provide enough information so the eligibility is clear, a school need to enroll the student immediately, even if they lack paperwork. So you should never have a family telling you, I went to the school and now they're asking me for proof of address, or now they're asking me for medical record, or they're asking me about anything, you know, and this is the reason why I cannot enroll in school. Federal law says students that are McKinney-Vento homeless, they need to be enrolled in school immediately. So if you ever come across a situation in which you had to send a student or a family to a school, feel that you have the authority to let them know, go and enroll, let the front desk personnel know that you are McKinney-Vento eligible. They will contact us to identify the student, but then they have to enroll the student, no questions asked. If they give you a hard time, you can call us, of course, but you can always call immediately at the school, or you empower your families to contact the school principal or the school homeless liaison at the school level. Now, that does not mean that homeless families can pick and choose the school that they want to attend and just go there. That means that any school can enroll the students in school, but the school assignment will be determined based on where the student lives or where the student has been, if they are already JCPS students. So a school placement, where can our homeless student go? They have two choices. They can go to the school of origin, and that is the school that they attended when they were permanently housed, or the last school that they attended if they have been homeless for a while. And the reason why they're able to select that school is because the federal law says that we want to promote school stability. So we want to make sure that once they are identified as homeless, they can continue to go to the same school rather than switching school every time that their housing situation or address change. Because that was the main issue that many of our homeless students across the nation were facing. Every time that they will have to move, and they were already highly mobile, they will have to change school. So again, a school of origin, make sure you talk to your parents and let them know you do not have to change school because you are receiving services in a shelter, or because you had to move out of a shelter. If you move 20 times, you can stay in the same school of origin, and that is the last school where the student attended when they were permanently housed, or the last school that the student attended in JCPS. And again, no one should be asking about proof of address, or actually they can ask, because if they don't provide enough information to say if they're homeless, front desk personnel is trained to ask for proof of address. But once that eligibility is clear, then school personnel should refrain from asking for proof of address. If that becomes a problem, you have a school homeless liaison at the school level, and you have us at the district level to support you. And if you ever need just a waiver from us or a letter saying this family is McKinney-Vento homeless, that way they can just go to school with that paperwork, you can also request that from our office. The second option that homeless students have is to enroll based on their address. That is a decision that comes from the parent or from the unaccompanied homeless youth. They will know their situation better than us, so they can actually be assigned as any other student based on their address. What we push for here a lot is for families to make that decision, understanding that school mobility is has a huge it can result in different issues at the school level. Every time that a student from school A to school B, a research say that it will take 4 months to recover academically from a school move. So we will always ask the family to make the decision based on their current situation and the upcoming future situation. We will hate to see a family moving school and changing school because they don't understand what they're eligible for. But of course, at the end of the day, the parent can make that decision for the unaccompanied homeless youth, and we will support that.
Giselle, there's a question about homeschooling.
Thank you. So homeless schooling, I will say, is not controversial necessarily at our district level. Anyone can request to be a homeschool student. You can go to the Land Building, which is located right behind the Ben Hus Education Center. Parents can go there and request to be provided with the information on how to register to be homeschooled. What we know is that for a homeless student, of course, homeless student can request that. However, some of our our schools are the best placement for our students that are homeless. Many times, not only they receive the academic support they need, but they also provide a safety net in general. A lot of our families are facing, of course, homelessness, and they will not be able to provide a environment that will be equipped to be able to provide homeschooling. So when I have families requesting homeschooling, I will say I will not be necessarily a barrier for them. I will guide them in the process. And then this homeschool coordinator for the district will make a decision if that can be granted. But I'm usually very careful with explaining what are the responsibilities, because the parent pretty much takes the responsibility of educating the student. And of course, we have teachers that have gone to school many years, many with a higher level of expertise, and we want to make sure our students are able to receive the best support possible.
It has to be documented in Infinite Campus that they are that they're homeschooled. So on their record in Infinite Campus, on their enrollments, it will say homeschool. So so that's something that actually has to be done for them to actually under the state legally be homeschooled, where it's not a problem where they're actually documented receiving school.
If they don't do the correct paperwork, it will look like they just not going to school, and of course that can lead to educational neglect, going to court, and potentially ending up in the foster care system. However, what I will say is that we can definitely support. We have an ongoing collaboration with many shelters that have families, and we will say that we have been very successful in making sure that our families understand the value of going to school and not attempting to do homeschool in shelters. We're not saying, we know that our schools are better equipped than most of our shelters.
And there's, oh, sorry, go ahead.
And Anissa was talking, Anissa, I think that you can talk better about that.
I just wanted to point out that we also try to explain to our parents, and you can too, when they're exploring the idea of homeschooling, that it can be very difficult to document the progress that they've made during homeschool when they return, and document what grade they're in. And we find that it is challenging to support them when they are trying to make the transition from homeschool back into the public school system.
We want our kids to be able to graduate at the end of the day. We want to make sure that they want to go to higher education, they can do that. What we have found is that many times families that absorb the responsibility of homeschooling the student, they do not understand how that decision can also imply that if they do not provide the requirements and they are not able to show progress and show that the student have learned all the the learning targets, that they might end up not being able to graduate or receiving the services that they will need. So I will definitely be very careful with, you know, discussing that type of options with parents. But of course, we have a department that is just for that, or an office that is for a school home.
And I will say too that, you know, if a parent says that they've been homeschooling for like a longer amount of time and there's any concern of that, I would say we want them to know, like, we don't want that to be a barrier to them to come for them to come to us, because regardless of how long that's been, like, we're here to help them and we're going to help them get them enrolled.
Right. A big myth that I think I already said is that homeless student can enroll in any school. That is not the case. Homeless student can go and complete the paperwork in any school, but the school assignment will depend on those two options, either a school of origin or a school based on where they reside. Homeless students do not have to change their school when they change homes or if they are in between homes. So they always have the ability of staying in their school of origin. That is the main purpose of the law, promoting stability. And we talk about transportation, and we are about to address a transportation concern, because there is no such a thing as access to a school of origin without transportation. Some of our students have been assigned to alternative schools due to behavior sometimes. Once their term in the alternative school is done, they are able to return to their school of origin. However, if you have a student that is McKinney-Vento and they have been assigned to an alternative school, let's say due to behavior, we at that point will not be able to change that school assignment, because the reason why they end up in an alternative school has nothing to do with their McKinney-Vento status, but it will have to do with behavior or with safety and providing the support they need in a better environment. I'm gonna take a few minutes, but this is really important and I think it will empower you. Some of our families some of our families struggle with sharing information about their housing situation. They might be embarrassed, they might be experiencing homelessness for the first time, and they might not provide enough information. So sometimes schools can give them a little pushback when they say they're McKinney-Vento. However, I want to tell you, the law says that in order for anyone to dispute their eligibility, it has to be done through an actual formal process that is called dispute resolution. So if you let your families know, use the word McKinney-Vento, if anyone at the school level has any issue with their eligibility, they have to complete a dispute process. It's an actual form that we have, and that form has to be completed by the school personnel or whoever is challenging the eligibility, and then it has to be sent to us for revision. It is reviewed at the district level, and many times it goes all the way to the state level. So please know that if you have a family, they go to school and they say, no, we don't think that they are McKinney-Vento, that cannot happen. And just keep us informed about that. But use the word dispute resolution, or keep that word in your toolkit. That way, if you need to advocate, you will know the right terminology to use with our schools or anyone that will challenge eligibility. And like I say, transportation is the biggest barrier that our homeless students face, and we do not want to shy away from the challenges that our district has faced with transportation. I am not the transportation department, and to be quite honest, many times our office and the transportation department work together in the same goal of providing transportation, but many times the approach that we use is different. Now, federal law says homeless students are eligible to receive transportation from their temporary housing to their school. And that does not mean always by a school bus or a van. However, 90% of our schools or 90% of our students that are homeless, they do receive a school bus or a van. Again, the law does not require the district to provide a school bus or a school van. However, we want to provide the safest way, a comparable way, or a way that is comparable how we transport homeless students or other students that are non-homeless. So that is why 90% of our students are transported by vans or buses. However, there are alternatives sometimes that we can provide when for challenges that sometimes our transportation department experience, that sometimes we had to provide alternatives. Those alternatives are in the form of mileage reimbursement, in the way of TARC ticket, which are depending on the ability of the family to use the TARC system, or how close it is from the school, how long will take the ride. If a family has a car, which we know that many families that we work with might not have a reliable vehicle. Also, this year, we will be able to use Uber, which is a little controversial because the parent will have to ride with the student unless if they are over 18 years old. So please do know that we know that there have been challenges in the past. I will say that right now, we know that there have been a number of students that have not received a school bus or a van, and they have been McKinney-Vento eligible. Many of them have received alternative support, either a mileage reimbursement, a gas card. However, the eligible or the federal law require us to provide transportation. It does not dictate what type of transportation. We are pushing our district to making sure that we are providing school buses and vans. That is what we want. We know it's the safest way. We know that if our students can ride the school bus, they will be more included. It will be more equitable support. Please do know that we want to partner with you. So anytime that you have a family that needs support with transportation, we are going to share that Google form that you can request the transportation. Schools can also provide that support. Now, access and opportunity, our main role is to determine eligibility and direct the transportation department to support us with the setting up of the buses, but we do not control necessarily the timeline, how long it takes. I will say last school year was a year that was very challenging for us, and we were having many conversations back and forth with the transportation department, and we saw that there was a bigger length of time between the time when the transportation was requested and when the transportation by bus and vans were assigned. So we know that that has been an issue in the past. We in this department have a residency app, and that app communicates immediately with the transportation department. So once we receive the transportation request from you or from the school or from the parents directly, we immediately identify if they're eligible, and if they are, we send that to the transportation department. The transportation department, we ask them question, how long should we wait? How long should be the timeline? And they have said for the upcoming year should be 5 business days. And that is coming from the transportation department and from people that are in charge of buses and vans. If at that point, nothing has been provided, you or the parent can request alternatives. We are working on support system to make sure that we can meet the demand, because what happened is that these 3 people that you're seeing in this meeting today are the same 3 people that will have to also calculate mileage reimbursement, provide support. So as you can see, we are in a tough spot. It takes time to set up alternatives. So let's say that you have a student that is homeless and you're working with them, and we have not been able to provide transportation through the transportation department. We actually had to go in Infinite Campus, which is our database, calculate how many days the student will be attending school, how many days they have attended school, then calculate through Google Maps the mileage of the typical route, then use our calculation to determine how much funding can be provided to the family. And normally we provide that in a gas card. So as you can imagine, and we're using federal funds, so it takes red tape, it takes documentation, it is a time-consuming effort. So I think that that is one way that you can help us, if we can figure out even ways in which you, as the coordinators in your shelters, in, you know, providers, if you can find a way of helping us with that process, that will be super helpful. Definitely we can share with you the gas card paperwork. So if you see that it has been over 5 days and you want to request alternative, you can help us with that paperwork, because sometimes we're waiting on paperwork from the families. They have to complete the paperwork. And if you can even want to become even more involved in this process and can help us with the calculation, we always are able to take any type of ideas that you might have. As I have always say, many of the many ideas that we have implemented in this department are ideas that are coming from our outside partners, mainly because this is a very different department than any other department in JCPS. Many other departments are dealing with things that a typical school will do, but we are kind of like a social work agency inside a school district. So we had to operate as a school, a social work agency, but we're also following educational laws and regulations. So we are in a tough spot, but we're always willing to listen to what works for our families. So I hope that I addressed that question, how long it will take from the transportation department. Should take 5 days for families to receive some type of answer. And at that point, you can request alternative. 90% of the time, we are able to set up a school bus or a van. You also have the power of your voices. So if you feel it's taking longer, if you feel we should accommodate better, please know that we're here also to collect those concerns and share them with the appropriate personnel. Because like I say, we're not the transportation department. We do support the work that we do, but many times we need your feedback so we can fix things. I think that we might have another question. How much out of school time homeless end up having? So also, the question is, how much out of school time do homeless end up having due to transportation issues? Also, with recent changes in transportation to magnet or even schools, what will the out of time school time increase for them? What will be the out of school time release for them? Okay, the answer to your question is the data department has been very consistent in providing that information for our students in general, because we are only able to set up transportation for students that are homeless but are requesting transportation when they are residing out of their cluster. We don't have that information, but that is actual information that our data research department can provide. So if this is something that you're requesting, I can definitely follow up on them. What I can tell you is that about 300 students that were eligible for buses at the end of the school year last year end up the school year without a bus or a van. And that is very disturbing to us. And we are working on supporting that need for the upcoming year. We're already working with the transportation department. We have asked the question, how long should it take? We have requested additional support. What we know is that we need a specialized transportation for homeless students, because they are not only eligible for a special type of routing or a special type of protections, but also because their situation is so difficult and different. And so
another question also regarding this, about financial reimbursement to homeless shelters who end up providing the transportation to the school when there's not a JCPS option.
Yes, I have not been directly contacted by any shelter up to now on how we can reimburse shelters for those type of expenses that typically should come from the district. What I will say, if you have a specific, you are representing a shelter that is able to provide your own transportation when JCPS buses or vans are not available, I am willing to have that conversation, definitely. And I think that the district will perceive that as a appropriate way of using our funding. Definitely, I see it as an allowable expense. Of course, before we will have to agree on what is a, what will be a reimbursement method, or what, how much can we reimburse for? So again, my question will be, for how long, and what are you asking for? Because typically we have to support that there is a need, and that the amount that we're paying is what it will cost to transport our student. But definitely we are able to have that conversation, and the finance department is aware about this challenge. So they will definitely entertain the idea of how can we work together to support this need. I see, what if a shelter house handle getting our student to a single designated depot? Will that help them to get to a bus district? Why? We have asked kind of like the similar question. We were trying to, so the question is, what if a shelter can take all their students to a single designated point, and from them, school buses can be provided so they can be then routed to their school? Can we talk more? I will say that is a very good initiative, but it will need final approval and revision from the transportation department. So I will be your biggest advocate, and I'm willing to set up a conversation around that. It will be super helpful if all the shelters can kind of get together, if that is something that they will want to do, so I can present a solid idea to the transportation department, because it will need not just, it will need a sustainable way of making sure that we have not only the buses available to pick up the student, but also the supervision, etc. So yes, if you are able to provide transportation, we can support you with that. If you are willing to, or if you want to present a proposal, please send them to me, and I will route them to the appropriate personnel, which in my mind will be transportation department and finance, because it will take those two main leaders to push that idea forward. I will be the first one saying, whatever we can do to implement McKinney-Vento, let's go ahead and do it, because that is what the federal law requires. Again, we provide transportation for students. We also have some additional items, and I'm gonna let other people in my team to kind of take over. That way I can finish coughing, because I'm chucking here, and I can keep an eye on the chat also. Yep.
Somewhere. Okay. So some of the other things we do this year, so previously we've had a food pantry, and we usually have hygiene items with that as well. So I think we're moving to food only gift cards primarily, rather than an actual pantry. And then hygiene items, we're going to place that probably down at the school level moving forward for an immediate need. And I'm not sure, we may have some additional stuff here at the district level, but primarily down to the school level for those things to be distributed at the school level to specifically our McKinney-Vento students. We have the CAP, our clothing assistance program. So we can submit appointments for our families, and at the beginning of the year, we typically will send something out to our partner agencies to have you guys fill out a document, and you'll see that here moving forward. We'll have a link to it. So after July 1st, we can qualify all our students. We fill in that link, and then we can submit bus requests for our students. We can then submit the request for CAP. We will have an opportunity for you to list the name of your agency. So for students directly from specific agencies, we can have your agencies as a whole pick up rather than individual families. So that will be helpful to kind of have one big pickup. So just know there's a link coming forward in the next couple of slides. You'll see that. We have a liaison list. Yeah. And we'll send out a liaison list that'll help you be able to contact the school level liaisons about the supports that we're pushing down to their level. Many of you have sent some of your families to our winter celebration in the past. So this is where we have our McKinney-Vento families now. We match our students, all the children in the family that are referred to sponsors, and the sponsors buy gifts for them. We try to also provide either a food gift card or like a food box. It's not guaranteed every year, but we try to set that up. And then we refer our families back out to you guys or other community services, like specific agencies that we think sometimes may be the most helpful for whatever their situation is. The one thing that we do not do is provide housing. Sometimes we get calls asking specifically about housing. This year, so only because we had some additional funds, we are getting ready to have some available vouchers for hotels. And so that's coming, but it's very short term. It's just immediate funding that's available for a short time. So once that's gone, and once we're at the deadline for that, we can no longer use it. So that's coming forward very soon. We are going to, again, push that out through our liaisons to refer students. If you guys have, we'll give you probably a single point of contact to reach out to us for those kind of shelter vouchers. I'm sorry, hotel vouchers. Yeah. And then it's only for what, 5 days? 5 days.
Consecutive days.
Yeah. But
Per student.
per student. Yeah. 5 consecutive days per student. And then again, in general, we don't, outside of that, this one opportunity, we don't provide housing. We do refer back to Coalition for the Homeless and to you guys as partner agencies. Did you have something to say on that?
Just about that, I wanted to say it's mainly for this summer. If you are working with a family, sometimes you might be working with a family that is not ready to go directly to a shelter, and a 5-day window might help them. We are able to support families that are identified as McKinney-Vento for up to 5 consecutive days. It's only the funding will be only available until September 30th. So beyond that, we don't have it because it's not a typical funding source that we have, and it's not sustainable. It's not something that the district has the ability of continue providing. But please do know that this is something that we are excited about because we do receive a lot of requests, and we would like to pilot it. But if we don't get a lot of requests, we might not be able to substantiate why we need it in the future. So if you have families in need, please let us know. If you're one of the shelters that receives many families during the year, and you feel like it will be good to have our own stock of hygiene items, school supply, backpacks ready to go, as you send this request to us, it will be helpful that if you say we have typically 40 students, these are and that way we can go ahead and support you with a personalized list of things that we can provide for your shelter. That way you're better prepared to support families immediately.
Is homelessness a reasonable excuse for lack of school attendance? So in the situation where we are waiting, we have students waiting on transportation. They've already been identified. We're pending services for them. Then yes, we will ask the schools to excuse the attendance. Usually that's a direct request to the principal. It is really at their decision making, and also people personnel office can waive, which is our attendance office can waive.
However, if we have provided the support and family continue not to send their children to school, then at that point we cannot, homelessness is not considered an excuse for lack of attendance, and there will be the same type of strategies that we will use to have any other student on school. So there will be some type of involvement with student people personnel. If a family is identified as homeless, we have provided all the resources and remove typical barriers for attendance. We still have families that decide not to send their children to school, and that's where we need our partners. We know that, like, for example, VOA, if they see a kid for too many days and not enroll in school, they will contact us and we will work together to make sure to get that child in school. So we want to make sure that all the shelters feel with the same, that we're working here together to make sure to remove barriers, but then to make our families accountable for providing our students also with access to school.
So are we able to provide housing for McKinney-Vento families? In general, no. And as I said, we have a very short-term window where we will have some hotel vouchers here shortly.
I think that we'll have to kind of move a little.
Okay, yep. So our role in the district, so we're a broad macro level kind of office. A lot of what we do is compliance to federal law and to ensure that that's being done at our schools. So a lot of that is like checking in with them. We train a person in each of our schools to know what McKinney-Vento is, to implement McKinney-Vento at the school level. And then when our families call us to make sure that that's happening. So we give a way for our schools to do that, the training and the resources to do that. We can do it here with the individual families and students at our level, but we try to make that a broader level and make sure that it's happening and address compliance if it is not happening. So that's kind of the broader, and then to make sure that basically law is being, our kids are receiving services and the rights that they're allowed. So that's kind of a brief synopsis of the slide. Yeah.
Preschools are part of McKinney-Vento. So if you have students that are in early childhood, everything that we have talked about kind of pertains to them. They're always McKinney-Vento eligible students are always Title I eligible. So any Title I services they're eligible for, even if they are not in a Title I school. And also they are automatically eligible for free lunch. We have collaboration with those departments, so those services are automatically provided for them once we identify them as homeless, and that is why the homeless identification process is so important. Anything that you can do to help us with the identification process will be appreciated, even if that means sending us a list every so often, every month, every 2 weeks with the students that you are working with. That will guarantee them to receive services that typically they will not be eligible for unless if they share their eligibility. Things to remember, we're kind of getting close to the end of our presentation, but I want to say, oops. What did I do? No. Okay. Okay, McKinney-Vento law promotes educational stability for homeless students. That is what we do. That is why our law is, or our definition of homelessness is broader than the housing definition. That means that everything that we do is educational related, and that's why our focus is not to provide housing support. Foster care students and homeless students are eligible to stay in their school of origin with transportation, even if that school is a traditional program or a magnet program. Again, I think that I forgot to say that there have been some changes in transportation that do not affect homeless and foster care students. Homeless and foster care students, if they end up in a school that is a traditional program, and that is their school of origin, then they will have access to the transportation. Now, I want to make sure everyone hears this. We do have also families that decide to request a school transfer. They request to go to another school that is not either their school of origin or the reside school. When that happens, during the transfer process, they are requesting to send their child to school where they typically will not be able to go, but at the same time, they are absorbing the responsibility of transporting their child. That has nothing to do with McKinney-Vento law, but it's important so we understand the difference. If you are working with a student and they are attending a magnet program, a traditional program, that is their school of origin, they will receive transportation. If they are residing within the cluster, if that is a reside school, they, of course, as any other student in the district, they also will receive transportation. If the parent is requesting a specific school and they receive placement in that school based on a transfer, then they absorb the responsibility of transporting their kids. That does not mean if we have an alternative, we cannot provide it, but we're not mandated by law. So that does not mean if I can provide a TAR ticket that I will not do it. However, I want to make sure that we understand the difference between the law and support that we can provide for homeless families and homeless students. We are mandated to enroll first and ask questions later if questions are needed. Our school district are not cannot be asking questions that are intrusive, or the only question that we can be asking is question related to the eligibility, of course, and we had to do it in a way that will be sensitive. So let me know if you ever had any issues with that. I think that other important thing this year is very, very important. Please make sure that parents understand every year from starting July 1st, we start with 0 identified homeless students. Do we know that there are some students that are homeless before, on July 1st? Yes, but until the families complete the adequate paperwork, or we receive information either from the families directly contacting us, or completing their residency form, or receiving information directly from our partner agencies, they will not be able to access those services. So if you have families and you want to share their eligibility with us, that will help the process so they can receive immediately McKinney-Vento support. But other than that, please do know that starting July 1st, we're going to start our identification for the upcoming year. This year, more important than any other year, that families keep updated their email, phone number, and address. Again, because we will be sending information, and when I say we, I'm talking even about our Access and Opportunity Homeless Department, emails with support, so with links so they can request transportation. If we do not have a good email, a good phone number, we will not be able to provide the support families need. Sometimes what we see is that some of our homeless families, they move so much that we cannot keep up with their information. Please, again, let the families know they will be receiving updates about the recertification process, and they will be receiving information about McKinney-Vento transportation that only homeless and foster care students will be eligible for. But if we do not have updated information, they will not receive that information in a timely manner. So that could be something that you can help us with. It says, when you provide the TARP pass, are there 30 days or short-term use passes? We have never been able to purchase passes, TARP passes for homeless students. Typically, we have those single passes, but we provide enough for the specific time that the family will be,
4-hour passes.
like the 4-hour passes that they can use on a daily basis. And we typically provide enough for the parent and for the child. Did that answer the question?
Well, I think so, because they were talking about passes and made me think monthly passes, but the tickets that we provide our families are good for up to 4 hours.
Up to 4 hours, but we will provide enough. So let's say that that the student will be, just writing TARP every day for 2 weeks. We will provide enough for the 2 weeks. And if it's a minor, we will provide enough for the student and for the parent. This is the link that we have for the referral, McKinney-Vento referral, so you can use it to request any additional support. Please use it. We probably at some point are going to review it based on feedback, so we are always able to review and the feedback. So let us know if there's any way that we can make this link better, so we can work better. But if you're working with a lot of students and you feel like, hey, I need this for all my 40 students or all my 80 students that we typically support, let us know that through the link too. My coworker here sent me a note, but I'm confused, so I'm gonna let her address that.
Our team is so small. When we're going to be sending you the link or the information, the list about all of our liaisons at the school levels, we just want you to know that that is a great point of contact for your families to get services sometimes really quickly.
Yeah, someone had asked earlier about the coordinator's name for the homeschooling documentation. And I think we skipped over that. So we need to make sure that folks have access to that.
Yes, homeschool coordinator. I will share that information. I think it should be available in our website, but definitely I will share it with email and phone number. And they can go in detail as far as like how to apply and what are the requirements, not only to be eligible to identify them as homeschool, but more importantly, how they be successful in that experience if they choose to go the homeschool route. And it will be really important for us to know if you have any policy at your shelter level to what is your policy in relationship to homeschooling? Do you have anything in particular, or school attendance? Do you have anything in particular that you have actually implemented by policy or by procedure so we can support attendance? What do you do about school attendance, about families that will not send their kids to school, etc.? And I saw a hand, but I do not see a question.
It's a coalition.
Yeah. You can, we can stop talking, and whoever has a question can ask that question. I think it was coalition with, maybe that was already the.
No, I accidentally clicked that.
Very good. Okay. So, any questions? And we have some homework. We will share the school homeless liaison list. We're gonna share again this presentation and the link for the needs assessment or for that request. And then we're gonna share the information about homeschool. As we talk with our transportation department, I will ask the Coalition for the Homeless to share with you guys any update that we do have, that we have about transportation. We know it's an issue. We wish that we will have all the answers about that, but we are not the transportation department, but we are working really closely with them because we believe that this population deserve a specific support. So as we receive direct information from the transportation department, we will contact Coalition for the Homeless and they will share that information with you.
And if we need to get together later on, and let people ask questions, if we need to bring people from the transportation department into the discussion, we can certainly set that up through the coalition.
That would be great.
We're happy to coordinate that, and you all have just been a wealth of information to us today. So I want these conversations to continue.
I appreciate it. I feel like you are right. I am more than willing to set up a question and answer type of forum or online with our transportation department. They are the experts and in that area. But I do feel that will be helpful, not only because we will get the answers that we need, but also to show that there are people in our community that are actively looking on making sure that our receive the services that we do need. I will tell you that we are very intentional about our advocacy for homeless and foster care students, but it's really helpful for board members, for our leadership to hear from the community and from our partners. These are our concerns, and we want to hear support specifically for this target population. So if you feel like, and if everybody is on agreement, I can definitely get our transportation team invited for a question and answer type of forum, and hopefully we can get that scheduled before the beginning of the school year. I think that is something that
yeah, that would be great. So you and I will be in contact on getting that set up.
I'm hearing yes, please. And believe me, that will make my job so much easier. I would say but my team provide voice for families that not only don't have a voice, but many times they are using their voice in other areas. But it's very difficult because sometimes it feels like we are talking for people that sometimes don't have a voice. So we need to be the voice for them.
Yeah. We've got one other question here. Can you see that in the Q&A?
Let's see. At the Brookworks, we do self-advocacy training for young adults in foster care and all student on laws, rights, and policy. You talk about educating school, making event of federal law. When you mention these federal laws and rights to parents, or when you mention or right, I think that when you mention these federal laws and rights to parents or homeless youth, adults, how your response has been? I will say this is a great question. So basically is, what is your response once the family understand McKinney-Vento and what their protections are? We have families that have become advocate not only for their own families, but for families in our community. And we have families that we have served that now are part of the Louisville Metro, and that focus on homelessness type of issues. So yes, it is powerful when we provide this for families because they can talk with authority. Our families many times have experienced things in a school and in other systems that are not the most friendly experiences. So when we empower them with the law and they're able to self-advocate, is always better. Please let us know if you ever have a way of providing trainings for families, because we can do a condensed version of what we have provided. We can do a 5-minute empowerment presentation for families, and I have seen great results on those. And we have posters available for your agency. We can coordinate with Coalition for the Homeless. That way we can distribute those. Those are pretty easy. You can put them in visible places and families can reach out to us based on that.
They'll call or they'll tell their schools, I'm McKinney-Vento.
Yeah, and families will use the McKinney-Vento law terminology, and schools will listen. I will tell you that we have done a pretty good job that when the right words McKinney-Vento are used, they know what they need to do. Great question. Appreciate it. Any other question before we let you guys know? Again, we do have some work to do, but I think the only thing that Julie does not have there is set up a meeting with Transportation Department, and we will. And I will try to also invite at least the chief over operations, which is the person that has been addressing the question about Transportation Department. I think is really, really important. And at least I will try to invite also finance, because this will take resources. And maybe I can get together with, the coalition. So that request comes from, a request as a coalition request. That will be super powerful, and I will move it forward.
Okay. All right. I don't want to close up shop here before I give everybody a chance to make a comment or ask a question. So this is one last call here. Any other comments or questions? Okay. Well, thank you all for showing up today, for your participation. There's been lots of good discussion generated, and I think that we've got some other things to do, and hopefully we'll be able to get something going on the more specific with the transportation coming up in the next few weeks before school starts. So Giselle, Julie, Anissa, thank you so much for sharing your expertise and your knowledge with us. Just a reminder to all the participants, you'll get a survey that for you to fill out regarding this particular webinar. Please, please, please fill that out. We do read these at the coalition. We take your feedback seriously. So please don't ignore that. And you will get a link to this recording, and to you will get the slides. We'll make sure that everybody has access to that. So thank you again so much, everybody, the participants, the presenters. This has been good information today. Thank you all.
Thanks for having us.
And Giselle, I'll be in touch.
I'm sure. Thank you so much. Take care.